Welcome, my 5th grade mathematicians. Today we are going to be looking at lesson 1.3, which is all about the properties. As you can see, we have the commutative property of addition, associative property of addition, identity property of addition, commutative property of multiplication, associative property of multiplication, and the identity property of multiplication. The difference between the commutative property and the associative property has to do with the difference between the change in order and the change in grouping. Think commutative means you're commuting from one place to the other, and back and forth. So the order changes. As you can see here, 12 plus 7 equals 7 plus 12. The order has changed with the commutative property. Associative property has to do with associates. So the group who you're hanging out with changes. So as you can see here, we have 8 plus 14 in a group, but over here we have 5 plus 8 in a group. So in that case, the grouping has changed. For the identity property of addition, it just means that any number plus 0 is that number. The identity property of multiplication, all that states is that any number times 1 is that number. So let's go ahead and look at the first problem. The Lockyer problem. It says, the table shows the number of bones in several parts of the human body. What is the total number of bones in the ribs and skull and the spine? To find the sum of additives using mental math, you can use the commutative and associative properties. So in this case, we want to find 24 plus 28 plus 26. And we want to do it as quickly as possible. Well, by looking at these, I see two numbers, 4 and 6, that added together equal 10. But they are not beside each other, so we cannot add them together. So we need to use the commutative property in order to add them. So we change the order. So then we can have 28 plus 24 plus 26. Now, order of operations tells us that we have to add these two numbers first. Their grouping comes first, so we need to change the grouping. So then we get 28 plus 24 plus 26. This is the associative property that allows us to do this. So now we can add. And I know 4 plus 6 is 10, 20 plus 20 is 40, plus that 10 is 50, plus the 28, so 28 plus 50 equals 78. So there are 78 bones in the ribs, in the skull, and the spine. On the next page, it talks about the distributive property. The distributive property states that multiplying a sum by a number is the same as multiplying each additive by the number and then adding the products. So it can be used with multiplication and subtraction. We have two examples there. So one way is to use addition. So if we have the problem that's stated here, 8 times 59, we can then break apart this 59 to be 50 plus 9. Two numbers that are a little easier to multiply by. Then we distribute the 8 to each number. So we have to do 8 times 50 plus 8 times 9. And then 8 times 5 is 40. And you add the 0, so you get 400. And 8 times 9 is 72. And you add that together, you get 472. The last way we can do this is by using subtraction. So we, again, have 8 times 59. But I know that 59 is close to 60. And it's 1 away. So I can do 8 times 60 minus 1. 8 times 6 is 48. You add the 0, you get 480. Then we subtract. 8 times 1 is 8, so we subtract 8, and we again have 472. So, on your own, I want you to try to look and see which properties you're going to be using on A and B. Rewatch this lesson as many times as needed.